Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's just take a moment and just soak that in. I mean, I was kind of hoping we'd have hit 90K, but not quite the case. But it's pretty exciting this last week. Price has been moving in a upward trajectory that doesn't feel like it's ever going to stop. And of course, everyone's pretty excited about it all. And why shouldn't we be? For those of you that have been in RT for a while, I mean, I've been 7 years. You know, to get it to a price like this is something we've talked about, hoped about, wondered if we'd ever actually get there. But we're talking about one Bitcoin worth nearly $90,000 at the moment. It's just absolutely outstanding that here we are, not even really, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the depths of the bull market, as in that sort of parabolic blow off top. And we're already running a poll to see what is next, 100K or 80K. Now, I still do. I have a Bitcoin clock. And whoever created that Bitcoin clock never thought we were going to get to 100K because it only goes to 5 digits. Well, you know, past the decimal point. And so, yeah, that could well be redundant pretty soon. That being said, though, obviously we've had a week of incredible gains. $20,000, just over $20,000 in the last 7 days. Price of Bitcoin has gone up. 6 of those last 7 days, we've made new all-time highs as well. So we can celebrate, we can be joyful, we can be happy at the price of where it's at. We need to talk about altcoins, obviously. But I'm trying not to talk about it too much tonight. But part of me does feel that maybe we just need to be prepared for a pullback. And it doesn't have to be an aggressive one, doesn't have to be particularly far or anything like that. But with huge gains like this, 30% up in a week on Bitcoin, we're going to see some profit taking, surely. And that's fine. That's fine. And we'll talk about, sort of what the best and worst courses of action, price action can be for Bitcoin a little bit later on. But I always find that after big green days, if we get a couple of red days, just the mood suddenly shifts quite quickly. And I don't think it's anything actually to be worried about, anything to fear necessarily. Actually, I think it's something that we should want just to try and create that sort of stability in and around these price levels. Hello to everyone in the chat. Just trying to catch up. Erjan, rather sinister white thumbnail outfit. That's Moon Knight. Obviously, I'm not a big Marvel fan. But of course, we're going to put Moon Knight on the front because Bitcoin to the moon. Absolutely. There are not many steps left until we can fully declare mission accomplished. We have landed on the moon. Hello to everybody else. If you do have any questions as we're going through, feel free to drop them in the chat. And other than that, let's just jump in. I would like, though, someone just to be on 90K watch for me. In case I don't have a chart there, just someone let me know if we actually do hit 90K. I mean, here's another pretty nice chart to have a look at. A matter of fact, normally when my chart loads, it loads like this. And so it's been quite nice having to scroll down a little bit just to be able to get the full price in. But this is it on the 3-day time frame. And we've talked about this. We know where it is. Ranging for 7 months as we have been. We've broken out, we've retested, and we've shot up. And, that 3 candles like that, that looks like it's 9 days. It isn't. It's 7 days. When we break it down onto the daily chart, you'll actually see this all stemmed from the election, which I don't really want to delve too much into the election. We know what the outcome of the election was. Trump won. Markets are relatively happy. And we'll just leave the macroeconomic side of things there. I think today is really about talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. But it has sparked a move from that. Looking at some of the other ones, so we got Casper. I'll put Casper on the big screen just as we run through. So Casper's been having a bit of a tough time of it, but like everything else, it had a nice move up over the last sort of 7 days or so. But funnily enough, and this is 3-day time frame again, what happened? We've actually turned around and rejected at the lower end of this trend line. So yes, cryptocurrencies are seeing a pump. Bitcoin more so in terms of dominance, at least, than the rest of the market. And we're going to have a talk about where the balance right now is between Bitcoin season and altcoin season. Casper's had a strong move up, but it's actually had a pretty decent rejection thus far from was a support line, now a resistance line that we need to break through to really try and get ourselves back on track there. So Yes, we'll go into altcoins later, but 17, if you can't stay till the end, 17 cents, start building above that and beyond. I think we can start sort of calling that Casper's got out of its dip at the moment and then can get back through. Crypto market cap. So this is total, what was on this one? This is total market cap. No, it's not. This is total 3. Why did it say total? Yeah, total 3. And again, another huge move up there. We actually got above 800 billion. Which is an incredible one to say in itself. But actually, when we go back in time and have a look at where we were, you know, we're not too far away. The all-time high for total 3 was 1.12 billion. So getting to that 800 billion, eclipsing where we were April and March, good to see. We have had a pullback today. And yes, Bitcoin started to pump, but actually the rest of the altcoin market, bar a few, have really struggled today. We're looking at high single or at least double digit losses across the board. It's nothing to worry about, okay? Yes, the last 6 days have been fantastic for us to look at our delta portfolios, especially if we are in altcoins more than Bitcoin, but we're going to expect some sort of transferring of funds in and around the crypto market. And, you know, don't be chasing anything. If you believe in a project that you're in, your time will come if we're in a, you know, a full Bitcoin market there. So good to see from that one there. And I do want to touch on BitTensor, but obviously, as always, we'll go into a lot more detail with BitTensor later on. But as you can see, that leading up to the election, the Trump pump, we came back down. We retested this on the 3-day time frame. Doesn't look clean, but trust me, that's a pretty clean support line there. It's bounced off that nice. And then we've gone from 400 to 630 in 7 days. Today has been, well, sorry, last couple of days, I will take this on the daily chart. We can see have been a bit up and down. So people are moving some funds around. We're in and around that one. But again, you know, we've broken structure quite nicely. We'll go into it in more detail. We've broken horizontal previous resistance levels of price. Yes, we've broken fib levels. We've broken out of this sort of falling compression or falling channel that was forming. So a pullback here, consolidate for the next leg up, perfectly normal. And I think as it currently stands right now, we need to wait how today's candle closes. But even if it closed in and around these levels, not exactly the end of the world for where BitTensor is going. Now, news. News is a bit of a funny one right now because, I mean, you could print an article at the moment about how mining's destroying the ozone layer or something like that, and it'd come out smelling of roses. Right now, the news is it's an interesting one because it's very skewed. Everything seems to be very positive headlines. There really isn't too much negative or you know, concerned sentiment. And again, you know, there's a lot of people, ourselves included, that have gone through, if not months, years of sort of doubting whether or not we're going to get there. And I think we forget that quite a lot of our time is either spent in a bear market or preparing in a consolidation area for a bull market. And so when we do finally start to make these large moves out, you know, it's only human nature that we have a smile on our faces. We remind people that we are actually in cryptocurrency and we can enjoy it. And that's exactly what these journalists are really doing. So there are plenty of news articles out there. They're all fairly positive and there is some good news in and around it. But I don't really want to spend too much time just diving into every single one, because what does come out with these is the crazy ones of where the price is going to go to, what's going to happen next. The reality is no one actually knows where the price is going to get to or what's going to happen next. We can all make educated guesses on where it is, but especially when we are in this new all-time high territory, it's very hard to see what the price level we're going to get to, just because we don't know how excited it's going to be. But when we have a look at the monthly returns now, you know, through September, Rectember, and October, we look to this all the time, and people kind of forget that actually November, December, and January, very positive months historically for Bitcoin as well. And November at the moment, currently sitting around about 24%, would put it, I mean, if you take out 2013, but that would put it effectively the third best November, even if the price just stopped now on record. So another good move through Q4, just lining up to be a sort of a really positive time for cryptocurrency, certainly for Bitcoin. Now, this was a lot better yesterday when I had it up, because now we've got the altcoins that are seeing a bit of a pullback. And even Bitcoin earlier on today was red as well. But we were seeing the actual shades of green on this yesterday, and it was incredible how far it had gone. But I think this is just a healthy reminder that actually there is some time to pull back. We actually go into here, and I've tried to put a few time frames on, 1 hour, 24 hours, 7-day percentage, 30 days, 60-day, year to date. And you can kind of see Bitcoin last 7 days, 30%, Ethereum's up 35, Solana is up nearly 29, BNB actually lagging behind at only 11, Dogecoin doubled in value. I mean, that helps with Elon being appointed head of the Department of Government Inefficiency. I'm sure Dogecoin is going to have a very good bull run. I'm sure it's going to be name dropped an awful lot. Cardano even, ADA, 73% up in the last 7 days. Not many altcoins can say they've done that. Sadly for Cardano, it's really stumbled for a long time. Polkadot, similar kind of thing, up 30% now. So, okay, making some moves. Let's have a look. So BitTensor's up 24%. I was looking for Casper, up 26%. So, okay, some fairly good moves in and around there. But this, I try not to talk about it too much. But we just got to be a little bit cautious. If we end up with another green day on Bitcoin today, this is probably going to go further up. But we're at 80% on the Fear and Greed Index. The only time we've been above that in the last 12 months was back in April when we sort of reached the previous all-time high at 73,000 before we then started that 9-month correction. So yes, this isn't going to give us an indication of what day we're going to pull back. But when we are in extreme greed, we know maybe not coming to the end of the cycle, but certainly we may be coming towards the end of this move. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to dump, but we just need a period of volatility, a period of ranging for this to come back down to be just a little bit more sensible. Let me see if I can, here we go. So there we are, 80, I'm just trying to see what do we get to here. February and March, apologies, 88, 81. So that was when it was just a slightly bit high, but then we had that correction that we saw. And hey, that might happen again. And if we are, and we'll talk about timescales a little bit later on, if we are those ones that want this to last till Q4 2025, we kind of want another period of consolidating. Just so we can build that support from which we can go on through. And I talked about it a little bit earlier on, Bitcoin versus altcoins. And yeah, Bitcoin is still the leader at the moment, unfortunately, because whilst I have a little bit of Bitcoin in my portfolio, it is more predominant with altcoins. But again, we'll have a look at dominance a little bit later on. This is following the typical 4-year cycle in terms of, Bitcoin runs first, dominance runs high, then we shift into altcoins. So perhaps you could argue that moving into Bitcoin might be the better play initially, but in some of the altcoins that we've chosen, the run up with Casper, the run up with BitTensor, some of the other ones, they have actually outperformed Bitcoin generally over the last sort of 18, 12 months. So hard to really say, but overall, for those that have more varied altcoin or crypto portfolios, it may not be our time just yet. Now, Bitcoin dominance can still increase and the price of altcoins can still increase, but we just got to be mindful that if we do start to see pullbacks in Bitcoin whilst dominance is high, altcoins seem to bleed worse. And that feels bad at the time, but then the flip side of that is when Bitcoin dominance drops whilst, capital has been pumped into the market, altcoins absolutely rocket compared to how Bitcoin's done previously. So you've just got to take the rough with the smooth, and it's all just about being patient. But the fact that the starting gun feels like it's gone off, we kind of know so that the race is there, and it's all about just, managing our race game, if you will, ensuring that we're at the right place for that sprint finish at the end. Now, there are a couple of news stories. I'm not going to go through them line by line, but again, some of them that I picked out, there's a lot of people talking about second half of 2025 being where we think the all-time high, the peak of the market will ultimately be, with most people suggesting it's actually going to be in Q4. And you could argue two things there. You could say, well, okay, it's priced in that that's where it's ultimately going to go. Or we could put a tinfoil hat on and go, what does Mother Market like to do? The opposite of what us plebs in retail think we know. And so maybe actually we see this a little bit sooner. And last week someone asked a question I said I was going to talk about this week, and then obviously this happened, so I might not end up there. But the short version of what our job is for those of you that are already fully deployed in terms of capital in the market for the next however long it's going to be, is make sure that you have enough information around you, however that comes in, to know when is a good time for you to leave the market. And I'm not necessarily talking about an exit plan, although you should definitely all be working on those if you haven't already. But just more, okay, when is it starting to get a bit too fever pitch here? When am I actually happy at levels in which I can start taking something off the table? So if we do see an unexpected turnaround, and let's face it, the peak of every bull market, people say it's going to go higher for longer, and it never does. And it takes us 6 to 8 weeks to realize that we were wrong. So, you know, for me, over the next 6 to 12 months, it's not so much if I want to be a contrarian, but I am just going to be looking at data to try and see, well, are we coming close to the top at the moment? Or are we actually going to break the 4-year cycle and this thing's going to go to forever and just keep on climbing and climbing? Now, we have some traders arguing that 100K, 125K before the end of this year is a fairly high probability. And just given how much of a move we've had, and let's face it, we've got, 7 weeks till the end of the year, might be 8 weeks and 7 weeks till Christmas, then yeah, you know, we may well see this. Now, Peter Brandt, some of you may know who he is. He's an old-timer trader. He's quite vocal on Twitter in terms of things. He's using this sort of Bayesian theory, the Bayesian theory being, well, something similar has happened in the past, so there's a decent probability that will happen in the future. Well, I mean, I'll go through it on my charts a little bit later on, but what he was saying was, if you go back to October of 2023, or even from sort of January 2024, we had sort of a consolidation period leading up to those, and then the market flew up to the next level. So we went from 26K to 70K, and now we've been consolidating for 9 months here in and around that 65K level, and the move then from 65K percentage-wise uplift could take us into sort of that 115 to 125 range. It's one person's view on that one. As I say, you look tomorrow and there'll be 7 other different ways of where it is going. But we're going to have a look at stuff like that when we get into the charting a little bit later on. This one, though, although I talked about total market cap number 3, that's minus Bitcoin, minus Ethereum, the overall crypto market cap got to 3.1 trillion. Now, I'm not bothered about the fact that it almost surpassed France's GDP. Don't care. What was more important for me is that 3.1 trillion was the peak of the crypto market back in the last bull run. So in November of 2021, we were looking at 3.1 trillion. Yesterday, we got to 3.094, something like that. So we just missed out on overtaking it. Now, it helps that the price of Bitcoin was 30 grand more than what it was in November. And it also helps that we're not talking about 400,000 tokens. We're talking about 26 million. But even at this early stage within this second phase of the bull run, we're already getting to 3.1 trillion. So, when we start throwing out numbers that the overall market cap might get to 6 trillion, 9 trillion, 10 trillion, it's not actually that far-fetched to understand that. That's only a 2 or 3x from where we currently are. And okay, we're talking about trillions here. I completely understand that. But there's plenty of money in terms of sort of, investment tools. And once we start to see Bitcoin hit the big numbers and we start to get that media focus within it, trust me, there's going to be FOMO. People weren't interested at 15K, but I bet you when it gets to 115K, they are certainly going to be interested in that. This was just the 2 levels that I saw from earlier. So it's on the monthly chart here. That was the last one. You can just see it just snitched underneath it. So pretty close, but no cigar. And then, what we know that Trump is moving in. I don't really want to talk about the politics side of things, but at the moment, all eyes are on, so who's going to be part of Trump's office, cabinet, whatever they call it over in America, government. And some of the bills that may be able to be passed. I know that Simon talked about this on Thursday, but I think it's worth reiterating. Cynthia Lummis, who is a Republican, back in July, she put forward the Bitcoin Act. The Bitcoin Act being that they would buy 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years, effectively 200,000 Bitcoin a year, and then they would hold on to that for 20 years, with the thought process of being that they could get rid of the US debt based on where the price of Bitcoin would be. Now, for that to have been achieved, I think Bitcoin would need to get to about $1.5 million over the next 20 years. But, suddenly then you're like, well, wait a second. If, because they've got the numbers now, the Republicans. If this, and she said only a couple of days ago on Twitter that she is going to go forward with trying to put this in front of the House to get it signed off. If they can get this signed off, and it is something that America, decides to push the throttle ahead. I'm not saying we get to $1 million Bitcoin anytime soon, but could you imagine just the validation and then the pump that comes off the validation of America's going for it? They're going for it because they see that Bitcoin is going to help solve their debt crisis. I mean, the irony in that, so that for years, as Bitcoiners, as cryptocurrency enthusiasts, have been told of our scheme is just a Ponzi, it's a magic internet money, and then suddenly, one of the largest economies in the world, if not the largest economy in the world, actually realizes that it's Bitcoin that's going to save their economy, and they need to go forward from it. So I can see big pumps from that, and the timing of it is almost perfect. He's going to take office in 2025, so 2025 is the year we're talking about. Sure, it's going to take a few months to get that kind of thing passed through, but even the rumor of that is going to just help to be able to drive that price up, and maybe something like that ultimately ends up breaking the 4-year cycle, because if they are going to commit to buying 200,000 Bitcoin a year, the question is who they're going to buy it off. We know we've got about 2 million on exchanges. We know BlackRock. I mean, we're going to have a look at what BlackRock have been buying recently, but BlackRock may sell to them because hey, they can probably afford to do that. But I don't know how many other people are going to really be willing to help try and contribute that. Certainly, small amount of Bitcoin holders like ourselves, say 100 less, less than 100, sorry. Bitcoin, are people going to want to sell to America, or they are going to hold on thinking, well, wait a second, 20 years time, I can be sitting on an absolute gold mine here? I think that's a tough call to get through. Debt clock, I just love looking at it every so often. So we're about to click over to $36 trillion. What are we? 7 billion away. That'll probably take a week less than a week, I'd imagine, before we cross over to that line. So you can kind of see it's the level of competition, or this is the amount of money that they're going to try and save with Bitcoin. Now, the irony being as well is obviously to buy this Bitcoin, they're going to have to print some more money. So the debt's going to get a little bit bigger. But I suppose at some stage they're hoping that those two paths are going to meet and go through there. And if it's not just America that are buying, MicroStrategy, they've just gone and bought another $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. They've seen it. They're not scared. They're not scared of it above 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. They're going to keep on buying because they're in it for the long haul. And if it's not MicroStrategy, it's the ETFs. Now, the ETFs over the last 7 days have been going crazy. And BlackRock, the canary in the coal mine, has bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin in the last 3 days. Obviously, today's data hasn't come through. Monday was I don't know if Monday was a federal holiday. It was Veterans Day. It's like Remembrance Day for us. So I'm not sure if the banks were just closed or the markets were closed. But they certainly bought $750 million then. Friday, they bought 200 million. And then on last Thursday, they bought $1.2 billion worth, as well as everybody else buying. So there is interest from the institutional investors. People are obviously excited to be getting into Bitcoin, regardless of what the price is, given where they think the markets are going to go in the next year, 4 years, however it's going to be. These are large orders coming through. And now BlackRock's sitting on, what's that, $28 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is wild when you think they've only been at it 9 months. And yeah, if to just further validate, and maybe some ammunition that you might need going into Christmas when, I'm sure some family members are going to come out and ask you what you've been up to this last year. And when you mention Bitcoin, they might roll their eyes, think, what are you doing wasting your time with that money? Well, now you can say, well, wait a second. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is now of a greater value than their gold ETF. Okay, so they believe in Bitcoin obviously more than they believe in gold. That's probably a tongue-in-cheek argument there, but certainly the value of Bitcoin rising to take it to there just gives credence to the fact that there's a lot of interest with people here. And BlackRock ain't doing this if they think it's magic internet money. And now we can finally say, look, it's better than gold. It is. We've known it's better than gold for a long time. But yeah. Okay, let me just see if I've missed anything here. Fraction over 2 years ago, we were at 15K. Yeah. I mean, that's wild. You know, FTX crashed 15K. Harry Hale and the Trump effect. I love you, Marvel graphics. Where can I get them from for my Twitter? I just create them on Canva. I'll probably put some in the Discord if you're interested. Yeah, this one, you know what, little cheat. I kind of used this one about 2 years ago, similar anyway, and then I just tweaked a few things. I spend far too much time making them. One, because I'm not very good at it. But two, my imagination just gets away with myself. Anyway, can I check out Drift? I certainly will a little bit later on, no problem. Yeah, there is a lot of we're all going to make it recently. Maybe we've got a bit of spare cash for Tau. We talked about some buying levels for Tau in Discord earlier today, down to that sort of 525, which I think it hit and perfectly bounced off. May not be the end. I think we may get sort of a retest there. But, you know, whether you buy now at 560, whatever it is, 620, whatever, I'm sort of in the position now where if that starting gun really has gone, it's just about getting something in, knowing that the race is going to last for 12 months or 6 months, and it will be higher than where you think it's going to be. Do you think today is a buy day? I think it was a buy day. I think when it went down and retested, I'll go over some Tau prices a little bit later on. So we go from there. If you suddenly had a spare cash equivalent to your quick portfolio tomorrow, how and when would you allocate it? I mean, if you looked at this, you would argue, you know, Bitcoin might be the play to start off with. If you were confident that you could trade out of it and you weren't afraid of that, I don't think 60% is the top of the dominance, if I'm honest, especially with some of the news articles we've just read through there. So I don't think it would be that bad a play to get into Bitcoin. Ride the Bitcoin price up, but also when riding that Bitcoin price up, you're likely going to be seeing Bitcoin value or your altcoins value versus Bitcoin diminishing. And so when you did flip, then you're likely to have more gains. Now, some people will argue that depending on how long that takes you, that could be reduced through staking and everything else. And I completely get it. But I don't think that's necessarily a particularly bad idea. Would I wait? Let's just see. Would I wait for it to drop back down? I mean, I do think, I mean, I'll go over them later. I do think we do see some retests of some levels. And so, you know, maybe you can, but if I had to go into something tomorrow, I'd probably initially go into Bitcoin. Failing that, I'd have a look at the AI narrative ones, like we all have been. You'll see later on my portfolio, for those of you who didn't catch it last week, it's pretty heavily Tau again now. Just sort of gone in from that one. Right, let's get a look at some price, and then we'll go from there. So here's the usual chart. Now, if you remember last week, yeah, we got these heat map blocks, liquidation levels, etc. in the yellow boxes. We got the Fibonacci. It's a bit messy here, and it's messy because we've finally got in close to this blue line. Now, this blue line, for those of you that haven't been around, has been there since 2022. It's been our support and resistance line all the way through, and we weren't really bothered about it last week because we were down at 66,000 and it felt miles away. But actually, we've shot all the way back up and in and around 94k. You know, the next couple of days, we're going to be hitting this line again. And so maybe that's actually where we start to see some turning around. It's been fairly solid. It's better at support than it is resistance. I will give it that. But, you know, if this is a thing, and maybe it is, if this then ties in with this 618 as well, we could see that that's a point where it turns around. We start to see some sort of corrections. But you can just see the size of the move and some of the liquidation levels. So we were worried about whether or not we were going to sort of invalidate this sort of block in around 65k. We've moved so far away from that. We bust through a liquidation level at 73,000. But since then, that level has been rebuilt. And this is where a lot of the long liquidations now are. And we've got a decent chunk, of short liquidations in and around 90 to 91,000. Given that we're knocking on that door at the moment, I would suggest that the market makers are going to try and take that. Not to mention the fact that this is looking like a pretty decent high test at the moment. We've still got 3.5 hours to go on the candle, so who knows? But if that was to close like that, fairly strong to go in there. And I think we do. I think we hit this level, whether it's 92, 93 or 94, just on how quickly we hit it. I think that's where we ultimately go. And I would like to see that sort of pullback. Talking about levels where we can get back to, if we were just to take the fibs down at 82, I think it would be a fairly decent level for us to see some sort of bounce. Or we take it all the way back down and we correct back down to the all-time high, which will hurt, especially for our altcoins. It'll feel like the end. There'll be a lot of people talking about how retail rushed in foolishly. The Trump pump pulled this thing up. You know, it's going back down to 60, 50K from there. But actually, it would be fairly natural for us to climb above all-time high, pull back to it, Kobo then off it. So don't be afraid of that. And going back to sort of, you know, buying opportunities, if we get down to that one, perfect buying opportunity. So these are some of the liquidation levels. So you can see that sort of 73, 75 building up here. There is a little bit on the shorter time frames between 80 and 85, but they're not huge yet. And 90 is just starting to turn into sort of that brighter green kind of level. And then that kind of runs up to about 90.1. So that's where I'm seeing those build. We'll just have to watch those as they build, and obviously how price interacts in and around those. So here we are with Bitcoin chart on the weekly time frame, and I think it was Habib that put this in. I'm going to try and draw it correctly. He might have done it on the linear and not the log. Oops, that's not the right one. I think it probably was this one. Maybe not. He drew it where he was connecting the tops as well. And I just wanted to show it because it kind of came to about that 75K level, previous all-time high. And I'm not sure I can really draw it very well now. I think it was probably something like that. And it might have been on the daily, and that's why it looked a bit cleaner. Here we go. It's looking a bit better. Sorry here. Something like that on the daily, which again, I don't think that's too much of a ridiculous call to suggest we come back down there. Now, yeah, it's a fall of $13,000. What's that? You know, approximately, I don't know, 20%, 17% pullback from the current price. But you can kind of see, you know, if we were to draw a breakout of any sort, we'd sort of see that, but we'd expect some sort of Kobo and then off again. And this is a fairly good Kobo to, you know, we're linking previous all-time highs here, and these the all-time cluster in and around there. So I don't think that's the worst. I'm not saying that's the worst case. I think worst case can go lower. I think, you know, middle worst case, yeah, we maybe see a retest there. Worst case in the short term, I think from a longer term point of view, as long as we can hold that, that's fantastic. That just proves, you know, that this isn't just a sort of a flash in the pan pullback there. And I mentioned it earlier on, but just to sort of reiterate, you know, so we had Wednesday, Trump was elected, all-time high, new all-time high. Then we had another new all-time high the next day, then another new all-time high the day after that. We didn't quite get an all-time high with a wick. We did on the daily close the day after, all-time high, all-time high. So 6 out of 7 were all-time highs. 7 out of 7 on daily closes were all all-time highs. So when you see, and this is an 8th, this one here, if it ends like how it is. So you can kind of see where I'm getting at the moment with having a lot of upward movement there. But what I did just want to say, to try and give you some hope that this isn't potentially in flash of fun. On the weekly time frame, just take a look down at the bottom there on the RSI. Yeah, okay, we have just peaked into overbought territory. We're not massively overbought. Matter of fact, we're only just on the weekly. And, we look at these periods, the move up in the last year's October, as well as the ETF drive. We were staying in this area for, 6-7 weeks at a time. We're only in, and its candle's not closed yet. This is the first week of it. It's week number 1. We could have weeks where we're staying within this range, able to build on that. Now, volatility can come within the 7 days of each of those weekly candles. And so, it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be ups and downs, but we could still continue this without being totally wrecked. And there's no real indicators where we can sort of take this from, but I mean, even if we went down here, 83, so we've still got a bit of room. We're only at 72. 83 is probably the lowest it got to before we turned around. Most of the time it was 85 to 88. So a lot of room for us still to work within. And again, I think that is a good position for us to be in. Just make sure I've caught up on all the questions I have, and I just had a panicked moment that I hadn't hit record, but I have, so all good there. Right, I got asked a couple of questions in RT. We'll come back on lower time frames and everything else with Bitcoin when we do all the other ones, but let's just try and close off some of these RT questions. I don't know who the first three were from, but Harry, yeah, I'll have a look at Memes AI as well, not a problem there. I found some anyone in my funding account on Qcoin. I haven't bought this, should I be worried? I've also found some cat on Binance, which I haven't bought. So you're not necessarily worried. It's likely that it's been airdropped to you because it was part of the Solana ecosystem or an Ethereum ecosystem or whatever, and you just happen to own a token that gave you it. If you're not interested in it, just ignore it. If you still want to make sure that you're on top of it for tax purposes, whenever you then transfer that tax data into whatever calculator you use, you can just delete it, just class it as an airdrop that you're not going to touch. And the fact of the matter is, until you actually sell it, there's nothing you need to worry about there. I've got a few of those on Binance that I don't think I can sell. I don't know why. So I've just left them. Someone's put here, no, it's a replacement of an existing project. Well, then it's probably just been rebranded. Let's have a look. Let's just go on. That's a couple. Let's assume it's this one. Any one protocol. Normally it gives a little note if it's changed. Nothing there, but it is on Qcoin. Probably a good shout that it is. That's why I say you've kind of got to keep up to date with everything that you're involved in, because if it has just been rebranded, then it's fine. But I almost got caught out on Menda because I wasn't paying attention that it was moving across the Solana network, and I could have missed out big time then. But yeah, okay. So, did you buy some famous M project in the first place? And if you had, then it's fine. It's just been rebranded. If you hadn't even bought that and it's just been airdropped to you, well, there you go. But generally, anything that lands in your major exchange wallet, even in your MetaMask wallet, I just ignore. If I didn't buy it, and then I don't deserve to take the benefit from it, the risk to reward, especially on MetaMask, of it having some sort of Trojan horse in there or whatever, then yeah. So it was a famous deep-in project. I can't remember the name. If I type in anyone into Google, it's going to give me some wild stuff. Let's just see. I'll do it on this one. At least it's anyone crypto. Was it Ator? A-T-O-R? A-T-O-R? Privacy Network. This is probably the one. I will find out, and I'll just, instead of me wasting everybody's time here, I will just comment in Discord afterwards once I'll leave that open though. Can you go through some levels you're looking at to potentially get into the gas BTC trade? Cheers. Okay, so I'm not really in the gas BTC, but here it is. And just bear in mind, this is gas BTC. This is not gas USD. The original spiky fade trade was always done gas BTC. So if that's the trade that you're talking about, then you got to remember what we're looking for is a stable period that we can, find price action working in and around, that we can take advantage of the spikes from. And I would actually say this is not a bad area, to be honest. We've been in this box. Well, let's just get a date. Let's get an exact figure for you. Date range. Maybe not exact, but, best part of 7 months, we've been in this price range here. So there's a decent level or decent area in which we've been reacting at. Now, it's at the very bottom of it at the moment. So you could ideally look at that as a perfect entry position, because there's a better chance for some upside. And you can also have a stop loss a lot closer to yourself to just get out if it hasn't gone the way you're looking to. We have seen a few spikes that have come from this. And again, the spiky fade, yes, okay, we had this one last year that for some reason went up like 3,000x or 3,000%, sorry. But you're normally looking for sort of like that 20%, 50%. It's just to increase your BTC. And so I think there's a decent level here. I mean, we can already see today that we've dropped, this big drop down into previous support. But if we were to just place an entry here, and I'm not suggesting you do, but if you were to, even just up to the EMA, it's a 35% uplift from a move. And again, it's been hitting that several times in this ranged period. So that is not out of the question for it to happen. So maybe I'm not personally in it, and I'm not personally going to do it. But a lot of the criteria that we would use, sort of a period of stability, it's at the lower end of that to lower your risk factor, and you can see a clear target of where you'd be aiming to get out. I don't think this is actually too bad a position to potentially take. So it's at 0.000005 at the moment, and you'd be looking for an exit in and around 4067, something like that. So yeah, and you can do that on Binance. I'm not sure where else you can do it. Let's just have a look for you. So Binance, KuCoin. I'm looking for what does gas versus BTC. So Binance and KuCoin would be the two that I would trust out of those. Next question. Any new alts you're stalking or looking to increase your position in? So, excuse me. I'm always looking to potentially add, not quite 90,000, some more Tau as and when opportunities arise. And I've been doing a little bit of meme coin plays. And the meme coins, they started off as a bit of a joke and an experiment, but actually they've quite quickly become almost a bit of an obsession. And so I'm always kind of looking for new meme coins. I've just got into this Master, it's MicroStrategy, sorry, which is, I think it could be a clever play. 21 million tokens. It's volatile though. It's been wild. Even today, moving down to like 150. So bit of a rough one, but that's kind of the stuff that I'm looking at. A lot of these meme plays, I'm kind of treating them a bit like altcoins, as in I'm not trying to sell them after 24 hours. So that's kind of where I'm looking. I'm not really interested in any other altcoins. Matter of fact, what I will be doing, instead of just buying new altcoins, I'm actually going to look to get trading, probably just trading Bitcoin and maybe something like Solana. Solana's now at new all-time highs. Maybe there's some opportunities there. But yeah, doing some perp trading just in and around that. I don't like having too many assets open because I end up waking up halfway through the night just seeing if I've been liquidated. So yeah, something like BTC that I can hop in and hop out of. I probably want to get into that. I'd love a retest down to 70,000. There'd be some real nice volatility to play with if that was the case. Joyce put, hey, do you see BTC or alts pulling back in the short term after the big green candle, or do you think we're fully at the races now? So I do feel that we should get a pullback. That doesn't mean we will get one. And I suppose I've kind of explained my thought process on that. Let me just go into this chart, Bitcoin, and let's go down some lows. So, I mean, even on the daily. So what we got here is, the old classic vector candles. We've got the EMAs. Look at how far spread we are on the daily, away from the 50, the 10, and the 20. So this is the 10. The 10 is at 80K, let's say. The 20 is at 75, and then at 70K, we've got the 50. Plus, we've got these vector, candles here where people have been trapped and caught out. I can see market makers moving those. Now, I do feel that there's probably a move up to be had first. That just feels like the next logical move. But I could see us coming down, maybe sharp corrections, come back down, sweep some of these vector candles to take us back in. I do think they'll be short-lived. When we are in this, if we go back, I said I'd do a comparison. I haven't really, but I will. But if we go, this was this run-up through 2020. So 2020, we were all talking about how quickly we could break the all-time high of 20,000. We broke it. And then within 20 days, we doubled it to 40,000. And that felt like what it was like now, that just surge of energy that came through. And you can see there were pullbacks, from 19,000 down to 16,000. Fairly decent pullback. But they were quickly brought back up. Strong moves up, pullbacks again from sort of 40,000 down to 30,000 over, 2 days. That one hurt, 25%. Again, bought back up. And then we've got these moves through. So pullbacks do happen. EMAs are a good kind of guide as to where it may end up going towards. So if you're not too worried about getting it to the exact dollar, this can be a good indicator of where you are. The 10 and the 20, generally very well respected. But if you leave the 50 alone for too long, it's going to drop there. And it's going to drop fast, but it's also going to be bought up fast. And that's generally what happens in bull runs, certainly from my sort of understanding of it. And you can see in this second peak in November, that 10 and that 20, occasionally down to the 50, 10 and 20, and then obviously it all went horribly wrong after that. So yeah, I can see some pullbacks. If we take it down some lower time frames, just once we've got Bitcoin up, and you can just see how strong this move up has been. So we're on the 4 hour at the moment. We're knocking on 90K. I mean, we got to here, what was that? $8 away from 90K. I'm sure some exchanges probably were at 90K. This one is Bitstamps, just because it's got the longest data. And yeah, you know, okay, this last 24 hours, we've come back to the 10. I would expect at some stage a retest of the 20. But the thing is, it's so steep at the moment, it's just going to keep on moving up and up. So it may retest it when we get to 85,000, but it's got an opportunity to just clear some of these vectors. And these are 3 in a row. And this kind of looked, do you remember in September what BitTensor looked like with that move from 200 to 450 or 500, all those vector candles, and everyone's like, nah, it's never going to retest them all. And actually it cleared out most of them, you know, down to the sort of sub 400s. And I can see that happening again. You know, a lot of these lines are linking up quite nicely. We're sort of that 80,000, 76,000. I mean, this one moves down 200 EMA, probably gets about 75,000, 76,000, which we talked about. Is already at sort of that worst case scenario and that fib level at 72. So all of these could quite easily get swept. And whilst we talk about that, the other thing to mention is the CME gap, because a lot of movement happened over the weekend. And so when the markets closed on Friday, it was at 77,000. They opened again and we were at 80,000. We don't normally see CME gaps not be retaken. And so that again feels like another sort of argument for that high 70, 80,000 kind of levels of retest there. So I think it was Joy that asked that one. There would be some of the levels I was looking at. But if we are in the firing gun and we're the second half of this bull run, then it's still off to the races. It's just an opportunity to go through there. And then Chris has asked, can you go through fading in the current bull market? I think a lot of what I just said applies. You know, we are going to see those chances for it to pull back, whether it be on altcoins or on Bitcoin. I mean, the same thing. Just got to bear in mind, I'll have a chart open, you know, not that one. You know, these pullbacks that happen, they're going to happen quickly. And so if you are going to fade, if you are going to either try and sidestep by some more, or you're just going to try and short the market as it's coming back down, absolutely fine. But just lower your expectations, okay? Don't think you're going to slam dunk it each time. Just be happy with getting 5-10%, just a little bit extra, because then when it gets increases in price, you're going to make it, because they are going to turn a lot quicker. And, you know, bullish news is treated a lot better. Bullish TA acts a lot quicker in this market. And when retail really do get involved, it almost feels like TA's out the window and we're just climbing. So by all means, try and fade it. Obviously protect yourself. Don't overexpose yourself, but don't get too greedy. Absolutely. Just have a look back at, you know, potential setups you'd take, and just how in a sort of like a really strong bull market, just how quickly they're gone. I don't think you want to be having a short open for multiple days, not unless there's a massive change in the trend. You know, you want to be in and out, and dare I say it, down on the 5, the 15, the 1 hour charts, and just getting in and out as quick as you can. That's what I'd be doing. That's hopefully what I am going to do when we go through there. Okay, let me have a quick drink of water. I don't think, so just have a look. Some questions here. The green zones, are those fair value gaps? So these are vector candles, and then someone else has gone on to ask what is a vector candle. So a vector candle, so this is an indicator you can use. So here it is. It's Traders Reality Main. You can just go into indicators, and there they are. Don't use Traders Reality, use Traders Reality Main. But when you click on it, you can have a look at the settings. It's pretty confusing. There's a lot of inputs in here, but we talk about vector candles here. And they show up. So we've got different colors. We've got red, green, violet, and blue. Now, red and violet are linked for sells, and green and blue are linked for buys. And all we're seeing is periods of increased volume, which generally means that it's sort of an excitable time. So people have got a bit caught away, and we're seeing if it's going to be on the up, we've got either green or blue to deal with. A blue candle will appear if it's 150% greater volume than we would normally expect. And I think it goes back, it does it over the last 17 candles. It might be 25. A green candle would be over 200%. So what we're seeing when we see these candles form, and we can see a lot of green and blues at the moment because we're in an uptrend, is these are periods where people have been very positive and they've bought, exposed themselves potentially, or more people have bought than they should, which is, if you sign up to that market maker theory, creating targets for the market maker to then come back and reverse. Because you've got to remember, in market maker theory, and it is confusing, if the price is going up, we're actually seeing selling taking place. And so the market makers are selling into an increased price, and they're also setting up their positions for buys later on. When the market is dropping in price, then market makers are buying. Now, what you then tend to see, and this is just an indicator, so these green candles, and then I've just done it so you can see it, is you see these zones, and they come up the color of whatever the candle is. And there's a little dotted line at the 50% level. And you can actually see when you go down the lower time frames, I'll just wait for it to load. There's going to be a lot of data here. Actually, funnily enough, I've gone on the 15 and these were all white. So actually what we've been seeing here is over the last 4 or 5 hours, no sort of abnormal amount of buying. Still positive buying, but it's not taken into a vector candle. I'm going to go back to the 4 hour because I've got some more to work with. But you got these 50% levels, and what you see happen is that price will work its way through. And there's an argument to be said that when price is ranging, there's very little times that vector candles are not recovered. So it's a shame we can't see them. I'll tell you what, I'm on the bloody CME chart here. Let's get onto this one. So we get into this ranging period here. And you can just take, let's just take any sort of run up, run down. So, okay, we're starting at the left here. So we've got blue and green vector candles. So they would have created the blue and green zones here. What do we see a few candles later? A red vector candle coming straight back into it, closing them all out. And that wick there goes pretty much down to the bottom of that body, would have totally recovered that move. And this is what market makers, make their money on. It's the volatility in the ranging markets. So when we come back down, we've got a green candle here, price moves back down, recovers it, comes back up, we've got sort of a blue one here, the red one takes it down. We've got a green vector candle coming here, almost immediately, red candle takes it down. We've got a blue, recovers 50%, but then comes back over green, so sort of almost a false move there. And then red vector candles taking the green and the blue out. And so vector candles are just good indicators of where price is likely going to go. Now, obviously, look, if I go on the daily, and I squeeze this out long enough, there's vector candles all the way down at 7,000. So it doesn't always work. And I don't want to get caught up in sort of market maker theory about why that's not a problem for the market makers, because they're providing liquidity to the market, so they're not going to get liquidated with the price being down here. But where prices are happening in and around, generally there isn't any move. So because we're in an uptrend, we may not recover these now. We may price may end up, if I can find just moving around there, taking our vector candles in that zone, but it leaves these ones free and they never get retaken. Or, actually, it's exactly what the market maker wants. See a bit of ranging, and then we're going to see them sweep back down, take out those vector candles. That's going to be a lot of short liquidations, or sorry, long liquidations getting taken out there. And then they build the price and start moving back up. That's a pretty long answer. Hopefully that helps answer the question, though. If that is confusing, I think I've actually done a couple of videos on it, but just feel free to drop me a message. I'd be more than happy to try and dumb that down a little bit better. Not sure why I'm on the Russell, although if Bijan's watching, I'm sure he'd be happy that I was looking at the Russell. Bijan's theory behind that, and I think it's fairly accurate. Pretty linked to the altcoin market, and so whatever the Russell does seems to be precursor to what the altcoin market is doing. Obviously, we've had that run up, and we've seen altcoins run up, but today's a red day on the Russell, so it's currently aligning with what we've seen in the altcoin market. I think that's a fairly safe assessment still there. Okay, let's go back into. Let's have a look at some of it. So let's have a look at Tau. Let's have a look at some of the other ones that we are interested in. And then we'll go from there. Still not hit 90k yet. Teasing me. Am I on the wrong chart here? I think I am. There we go. Tau. Okay. So sorry if you're new to this and it's a bit much on the screen. Just to say what else there is. So I've gone through the vector candles. Then you got some EMAs on here. You got the light blue, which is the 10, the red, which is the 20. The 50 is the dark blue and it's got the cloud around it. The yellow is the 200. And then somewhere on here, or maybe not on Tau, on the daily, but you got a purple, which is the 800. So Tau doesn't have 800 days worth of data. So that's why it's not there yet. But again, so it's moved back down into last week, straight off the 200 EMA, it's punched back through. And last week we saw that happen. And what I said on Tuesday was, it's great that it's moved up to that 470, but we need it to break this structure of 520, and it did. It has. Even better than that, it broke above the 10, the 50, and the 20, but then it consolidated, Kobo'd back down, and look at the EMs. I might mess down here, but never lost the 50 again. Built some strength off it, move up. Then what will we seen today? I'm gonna drop it on the 4 hour. We'll throw a fib on. And this is what we were talking about in Discord a little bit earlier on. But we had that move, from down here to up here. And I sort of posted and I was looking at this 382 level. And I was saying sort of between 525 and 530 is where I can see price coming back down to. I didn't buy in it. I was just sort of making an observation just because that kind of ties in. We've been away from the 50 EMA for quite some time. We'd already started to see that price was falling away. And so it was likely that we're going to have some sort of retest. You put on that one of the golden fib levels, and then it seems like a surefire thing. And lo and behold, we did. And actually, when you look on the hours, then it has been moving in and around. But thankfully, last 4 hour candle, we've moved away. We now need to see some building of structure there. I wouldn't be surprised to see another retest of it, if I'm perfectly honest. But yeah, someone said we just tested 90k. There we go. Come on, let's get up there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to necessarily see that. And I know we talked about sort of vectors before, and obviously there are some targets there. But right now, what overrides those vectors is we've come down. We've been in that downtrend, which we talked about. We've made a V reversal. We've come back up to sort of the previous lower high, rejected from it, found price support in and around here, plus off the 618. And then we've come through. We've broken market structure. So we're now in an uptrend because we had that. Then we came up here. And then we're here, there. So we've done this now. And as long as it holds that, then that's the structure. And that's why I think we're going to retest at least 600 again, if not actually retesting the local high of 660 before we can then make that move on to 730. I think we got to with the Binance listing, and to go from there. So that's kind of where I'm looking with BitTensor at the moment. Casper, we have to zoom out a little bit here. The Casper's had a much stronger reaction. Oops. It's odd, like Casper's been the antithesis of the market. When Bitcoin was ranging down for 7 months, Casper was ranging up for 7 months. When Bitcoin's found some strength, Casper's found some weakness. And it was just falling hard. A bit like what Tau did a couple of months ago, I suppose. But a really strong V reversal here. So we've had, bounce up, rejection off the 200 EMA, no surprise there. Come back down, in and around the 50 is on the cloud. And then we found the strength, we've shot straight back up. But with that, what do we expect on strong moves like this? Expect some sort of 50% retracement, don't we? And so, yeah, so it's come back down. And actually, it's the 50 EMA cloud, which is catching it. And also, can you see, there would have been vector candle zones there and one here, which have been recovered. So we've seen that 50% recovery of the vector zones, and it's taken that out there. Now, as I mentioned before, back on this chart, it's kind of reject. Oh, you can't see my face in the way. It's kind of rejected off a trend line. Well, if we come back on the lower time frames, this is that rejection. And it's starting to fall back down. It's getting squeezed. And what we're seeing is it's kind of reacting in and around the 50 and the 10 and the 800 EMA up here. So we need to re-break above that. 800 especially, build off that and then come back up. I mean, I think I'm probably throwing a lot of information out here, but if we did put a fib level on, we can see that 382, similar to what Casper reacted off. It's where it was coming from there. And at the moment, it's getting squeezed at 236 as well. So bit of work for Casper to do, but I stand by generally if Bitcoin's going to go up and we're getting money flowing into the market, then it should lift altcoins. Also, Casper's not been the one that's followed suit very well from that. Right, some people asked me to have a look at some other ones, which I want to make sure I don't forget about. So I think the first one was Drift. Best way to find Drift. Ugh. Okay, wow, okay. So Drift had a move, hasn't it? I mean, I appreciate this is on the coin market cap chart, but done nothing effectively since its launch. And then I don't know if there's some news announcement or what, but it is, yeah, it's absolutely shot up. It almost 4x'd last week, and then obviously we've recovered a bit, but a very strong move from there. And let's get up on the main chart. Let's have a look. Let's go with Binance. No. See, that's what I've got to try and find one which has the longest data. I think we'll have to go for a dodgy one like Mexi. Or Qcoin on as well, you never know. Poloniex, might have had it for a while too. So let's have a look. Okay, that's better. So, yeah, this move here, I mean, this is going to have caught some people out here, and I don't know what's caused that move. What I would say is if this 50 EMA doesn't hold, I think we recover at least down to 80 cents. Take these down here, maybe find some life off this. And if we throw a fib on it, I mean, right now it's on the 236. So, not the strongest, but it is finding bit of stalling right at the top of the cloud on that there. But, a 50% pullback from this move would be round about $1. Actually might even be down at sort of 90 cents, which would be the 0.5 on the fib level. So I think all eyes for me, there's a lot of things to look at, I appreciate, but that's why we have put all these things on our chart. Obviously that level, I want to see how it reacts there, and then any of those. But it wouldn't surprise me if we lose that to see, even if it wicks down here, just to take out some of these vectors. I don't know what's caused it to go up there. I don't know if it was a news announcement, listing announcement, or just the Trump pump, is that's what we're calling this. Let's have a look there. Let's see, there was another one, so that was Drift. Memes AI on Deck Screener. I should have done that. I know a few people are in Memes AI. I'm not personally. Let's have a look. I'll just close the poll. I haven't seen what the result is at the moment yet, but I'll just close it whilst we're there. Right, Memes AI. It's only on Solana, so we're definitely on the right one there. Oof. Okay. So now, if you're a fan of Murad and his memes theory, then actually this is looking pretty good. I know you might not think it, but what you want to see, I mean, he prefers to have 6 months worth of data first, but you want to see a move up and a 75% correction to get rid of all of the weak hands, and then that strong move up again. For now, this looks good. I wouldn't be surprised with it being a meme that there's so little data I can take from it. Let's try and put it on the 4 hour. I mean, volume obviously increased up there as well. But yeah, some sort of pullback maybe to this previous all-time high around about 4.5, which would be a 50% recovery of the move. I don't think would be out of this world, but it being a meme can have a life of its own, and off it would go. The only other thing I can really do is go from bottom to top. So let's just say, start the move here. yeah, this sort of 0.5 level maybe, 0.5 fib, so the 4 cents level move down there. I mean, to be fair, 618, the 5 and the 382, they all have price action interacting in and around there, so I think there's all a good chance. But yeah, it's obviously had a strong couple of moves on. If you're in this one, then great. If you've been in it for a while, fantastic. It's not that old, but I mean, it's not that long ago. Ooh, you could have already 20, 30, 40 extra position, depending on how long you've been in it. So yeah, some good stuff there on that one. Tim's asked for AIOZ. I just, it's funny, I was, for those of you that are going to Cuddle, I was just preparing my presentation for it, and I actually realized I used to own some of this stuff. So I really hope it's not doing very well. It isn't doing that well, not compared to others. I mean, it's not the worst, don't get me wrong. Maybe it's that. I know it's not accurate because this has gone through it, but there's a lot of price action in and around there. So it's definitely broken through that, which is good to see. But it's failed to get above this. So the anomaly that was above there before, it's failed to get above it. That being said, it's working its way out of a downtrend. This downtrend here, which it's got a higher low there, and then this is obviously a higher high, no matter how it closes now. So it's working its way out, but it's only one step. I'd want to see another one before we called it. But yeah, it has had a strong move out. It had a little bit of a Cobra and a retest here, so you could argue it's had that strength to go through. So I think there's potential for that. Why didn't I do it on this one? Sorry. And Tim, you know what I like to kind of have a look at. So that strong move up has just spread these out, which makes me feel that there is going to be some sort of correction. Now, the last candle, actually, it has been playing off this 10 EMA. So maybe it has the strength to go up a few more. But I don't think it'll be long before it retests the 20. The good thing is the steepness of that is it's almost keeping up with the 10 EMA. And then, as I say, you throw those fibs back on just so you can see them. We don't know this is the top of the move. That's the problem. So, I'm just guessing here. But yeah, it's already retested this 236 and it's held it. So, yeah, if you're in it, I don't know when you got in on it, but it's making the right moves. It's obviously been in that downtrend. It's moving out. And it's had a 20% pump today. Tau CAS chart. Yep, I'll have a look at that one. Tau and CAS. Here we go. I can never remember which way I've written my Tau chart. So let me just think. If this goes up, it means I can buy more CAS for my Tau, so Tau is stronger. Is that right? I think so. I can never remember which way I've done it. But this is kind of just showing us how CAS has been falling a little bit. Obviously, it had that recent recovery through. So maybe we get, a bit more to that sort of 4,500 because we're still in the downtrend. But get rid of all of those. Not very clean. Put it on the hourly now. Just try to see if I can get something from it. I mean, maybe it does find a way to get back up here, but it's stalling. And I just worry that actually it's running out of momentum because these other moves up have been fairly strong. They haven't really had any breather room where this one's kind of stalled. So I'm not sure CAS has done enough at the moment to convince me that it's worth swapping out into it. Not compared to where Tau is. And you go back to that original chart here of it running into this. I want to see it building above this line before I think it can have some confidence to move back up. And I'm not sure where it is or if it still sits within some of the cycles and the trap vibes and all that kind of stuff. I honestly don't know. That's not the right one. But yeah, I'm happy at the moment that I moved my cows into Tau right now. If there's an opportunity to potentially move some back, then potentially I would. If you haven't used your year's ISA allowance, you would A, use the full allowance and invest in, or B, put the same amount into Tau or C, something else. So it's all about risk, isn't it? In terms of, if you truly believe that that crypto is the right way, then just putting it in Bitcoin can't necessarily be a problem. If you want to sort of diversify the risk a little bit, then putting it into MicroStrategy could well be a good play. I've actually just sent my ISA allowance this year because I realized I hadn't done it. I don't think it would have gone into MicroStrategy, to be honest. But put the same amount into Tau. So here's the thing, as much as I'm a big fan of Tau and I think it can go somewhere, what if it doesn't? Yeah, and also thinking more from tax-wise, well, putting it into the ISA is tax-free, isn't it? You put it into Tau or you put it into Bitcoin, whenever you decide to take it out, you're going to get hit with minimum of 24% capital gains tax. That could go up as well. So it almost feels like the move would be to try and utilize either MicroStrategy, probably is MicroStrategy, or if there's something else is other, stocks and shares portfolios covered under an ISA. I ain't a financial advisor. I don't know what to, I can only tell you what I do. I fill my ISA up every year, and I don't put it into crypto. I just have it as a secondary fund. And I have a shares or stocks portfolio as well. So, I kind of de-risk myself. I whiskey and all sorts of stuff, which you could argue I was better suited to put some stuff into Bitcoin. But, quite a decent amount of my, net worth is in cryptocurrency. So I'm not too bothered about some sort of diversification. Of your two pots, Bitcoin only, and which has performed better? Let me get my phone out and I'll tell you. Just give me a second. I think it actually is probably Bitcoin. I'm in the wrong app. I mean, my Bitcoin portfolio is up 200%, and my altcoin portfolio, oh, wait a second, is up. So it's a Bitcoin, so up to 110, that one. Now, you asked me that question in March of this year, and it would have absolutely been altcoins. And as well as Tau has done, I've made mistakes. I've held on to projects like Polkadot for longer than I should have done. I've done some poor trading, etc., which has obviously eaten into the altcoins. But generally, you would argue that we're still in Bitcoin season and Bitcoin dominance, so that's probably why it makes almost sense. And I was fortunate enough to be buying Bitcoin at £13,000 or $16,000 or whatever it was. So I bought a large portion of my pot back in then. I bought some at 74,000. Matter of fact, I haven't even mentioned it, but man, this was annoying because my monthly buy didn't go through, and I need to write a complaint about it or speak to them because I put my monthly buy in. Oh wait, it's in pounds, but it was on the day before the election. It was £51,000. It's around about here, and it definitely hit, but it didn't go through. And now Bitcoin's at £70,000. So I'm a bit annoyed about that. So I've been buying more Bitcoin every month for the last 3 years. So obviously it's just, you don't get to buy as much now. But yeah, that's where that one is. And that goes back to the question someone asked before, if you could put your pot allocation in, what would you do it in? I honestly probably would put it in Bitcoin and then just swap at a later date. I think we were lucky they're not lucky, but the fact that Tau has done so well, not many altcoins have outperformed Bitcoin in that sense. I mean, hell, if I had known that, I would have just put it into Solana at $8. But yeah, we live and we learn. Is there anything else I really want to cover? I mean, we've been on an hour and 15 minutes. I feel like I'm flogging a dead horse now. 89,000, still not quite there. Let's have a look at what the poll was. So the poll was, Do you know what? Probably similar to myself. 2/3 think we're going to get to, sorry, no, the other way. 2/3 think we're going to get to 100K. Only 1/3 think we're going to get to 80K. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get to 100K and we pull back to 80. That's where I think we are. I think this will only get higher. I think we'll have a good bloody nose that will come from it. And 80K will feel like the end of the world because of how quickly we've climbed up, but it won't be. So I think we get 80K first and then 100K. I think 100K before the end of the year, quite likely. But then again, we thought we'd get 80K when it hit 73, and it took us 9 months to get back to that. So that's where we are. So here's the portfolios. I don't think much has really changed. Tau's just under 60%, NIR's at 27, Render's at 4.5, and the memes is at around about 12%. So the memes, they were at 15% a few days ago. They've gone down today and yesterday. They bled a little bit. But, the rest of it's kind of staying where it is. The Tau's actually probably wrong because I haven't updated my staking rewards for ages with where that one is. But yeah, that's currently where that all sits. I'm just going to throw this out here as well because I put it in Discord. But if any of you do want to either offer me some advice or even support me whilst I'm running the London Marathon next year, because I'm having a midlife crisis, then I'm running it for the Royal British Legion. If any of you are generous enough to want to donate, it's pinned within the Avenger chat in the Discord. And for those that have already sponsored me for the group, and there have been a few of you, firstly, thank you. I had quite a lot because it's been Remembrance Week. So I'm just got to go through everybody's, and I'll send a message personally to all to just say thank you. But yeah, I'm 42 and I've never run a marathon before. So the training is going all right at the moment, but I'm immediately aware of how far 26 miles is. So we'll see how we get on with that one. What's this one open for? Oh, that was just the memes side of things. Right, I think that's probably enough for today. Let's just make sure I've got the main screen on. I do. Yeah, what a week it's been. It's great when the market's like this. I think everyone's just generally nicer to each other. The conversations in the group are a lot better and everyone's a bit more positive. And I feel like people talk more in the group, which is great. Long may they last, but don't fret too much if we see it pull back. I think it's highly likely that we're going to, but we need it. We do need it. We can't go up 33% inside 7 days with 7 all-time highs in 7 days without some sort of correction, because there's most people on Twitter at the moment are thinking this is easy. And well, most of you have seen the chart of what your friends think it is, hodling Bitcoin versus what it actually is. Well, I'm sure we're facing another pit full of snakes or something like that along the road. So yes, it may happen, but this is what we expect to see. And hopefully this lasts for another, 6 to 12 months. And we'll be talking about figures like 100,000, 125, 150, maybe even hopefully 200,000, and where that takes us for altcoins. But obviously until then, we've got Discord. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to fire them across to me. There's no trading pub on Thursday, but there will be a video. Simon's in London. The cuddle is next weekend, so a week on Saturday. I think there's only like 7 or 8 places left. So if you do want to come and bring a friend, let Lewis know, because we're restricted with numbers because of the fire capacity. So just bear that one in mind. I'm not sure what the activity is on the Sunday, but I'm probably going to try and stick around for it. Erjan's just put, I was looking earlier and thought BTC could get down to 73. Yeah, we've talked about sort of 70, 75, 72 being one. I don't rule it out, but yeah, don't fret if it does get down there. Other than that, just want to say the second I log off, hopefully it hits 90K. Enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers now.